Now let's take a look at how we can add events to this event calendar and a few of the things that are important to remember so that the color coding will appear correctly. Now, if you're at the state site, and again, not everybody will have access to this, but the process for editing will work the same no matter what site you're on. Now, we're going to look at the state site to begin. Now, if I'm on the events page, I might expect to be able to edit this page and edit events, but let's see what happens. If I do edit page from that dashboard control at the top, I don't actually see the event calendar. I see what's called a short code that inserts the calendar there on the page for me. Or if I can look at two different views, the visual and the text view, which is HTML. The visual view just shows me an even shorter code that just says full calendar. So this tells me this has been inserted from somewhere else, so I need to look elsewhere in the dashboard to make these edits. And that other place would be under Events. Now you'll notice, just like with every other option in WordPress, if I hover on the item, I get a menu of option that comes up. So let's go ahead and just click on Events to see what we have. Now we have no events found because we're still in the production of the website. So we're going to go ahead and add a brand new one so you can see the process and we can see it show up on the event calendar. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Add Event, or notice I could do Add Event from the side menu. Both work the same. And it will bring up an event calendar to be completed for me. So let's go ahead and call this Sample Event for Calendar. And just like any WordPress page, you have all of the different editing features that you would ordinarily have. So I'm just going to type details go here, but ordinarily you would be providing the details about the event so that your audience knows what to expect. We'll select the date here in the top right. Let's go ahead and select today, the day of recording, which is February 17th. And let's make it an all-day event. But of course you can begin and end at the particular times that make sense. Now, before we go straight to publish, there's one key thing to know when you're adding an event. It's very important to select what chapter or whether it's for the state site so that the color coding will be correct. If we don't select that, we'll get a default color that's a light green, and that will be misleading because everything will look like the Potomac chapter, for example, that has that apple green. So we want to make sure we check the correct chapter. Now for this one, it's a state event since we're on the state site. So if we scroll down a little bit on the page, you'll see a section here called Event Categories. Now I know that this is for the state site, so I'm going to scroll through all of these and I'm going to pick State Event. And also we want to select what kind of event. So it could be a field trip, for example. So let's go ahead and select field trip. Now if I keep scrolling down, I notice that I can set a featured image. A featured image might be a picture of a speaker or an author who's going to be presenting a book, or the person who's conducting the field trip. That would pretty much be just a bit of information about that speaker or the person who's actually featured for the event. It's not necessary, but if you have one, that's great. Now the next thing is actually the physical location. Now, if everything is always held at the exact same location, it's probably not necessary to have a physical location. But if, for example, you take field trips to a particular park or reserve in your area, you can actually create a location for that and store it and use it again and again. For this example, let's just say that the event doesn't have a physical location. Perhaps it's a phone call, or everybody knows to show up at the state board meeting place. For whatever reason, this doesn't have a physical location. So those are the key things we need to make sure that we tell everybody where to go and what chapter or whether it's for the state. So now that I've done those things, I'm going to go ahead and publish my event. And to see this show up, I'm actually going to go right back to the Virginia Native Plant Society website. So I'm going to pop over from the dashboard out to the live view of the site. I'm going to select Events. And we'll see today that we have a sample event for the calendar. It's been placed as an all-day event on the 17th, and it is color-coded black as a state event. So as long as you remember to select that correct chapter, it's going to show up with the correct color coding. Now I could go ahead and click on the event to open it up, and the viewer would be able to then get all of the appropriate details for the event. And obviously we put details go here as a sample, but ordinarily you would have a description of the event and a little bit of detail about whether there's a cost. Everything the person needs to know for the event is right there on the event calendar. Now this process works exactly the same whether you're working on the state site or a chapter site. So if you're in, say, the Northern Neck site, for example, if you go to the dashboard, the process is absolutely identical. We have events. We can add event. You would add all the same details that we just added, making sure that you select the day and time, you select the correct chapter, and you provide information about the location. The process is identical. The only difference is that automatic roll-up that occurs in the background. If you're administering a chapter site, you don't need to do anything to make sure that roll-up occurs. As soon as you add an event, it will automatically upload and appear in the roll-up on the state website.